in celebration of new religion. Nobody led me, or said this way. I sailed alone on makeshift raft with wind as companion. Prayed for deliverance, confidence enough to assess new disposition. The seekers of lost paradise may seem fools to those who never sought the other world. Welcome to Momentary Zen with Zen Garcia. Visit www.fallenangels.tv. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
Hello and welcome, friends. It's always a great honor, a pleasure, and a blessing to be here with you and to share this time and space and this platform connecting together in a moment of time from wherever we may be on the plane of the earth. What a glorious thing to be able to come together as ecclesia and to just be in front of a computer that allows us to connect in such manner. And even though, technology being a tool, it can be utilized for good or bad, I do believe without a doubt that it has been a great blessing on part of the prophetic nature and uh, the culmination of what the Most High had promised in pouring out his spirit upon all flesh and bringing truth to light, awakening individuals' minds, hearts, souls, spirits to the true nature, reality of where we live, who we are, what's going on, what all this is about. But I think that certainly as we progress, that technology will be utilized by the beast and the beast system to do things like extend the life, to alter the whole theme of transhumanism, to bring people uh, to control, to watch, monitor that the technology without a doubt is being utilized for such, even now that there are monitors, video cameras everywhere, that they can even program one to send you a ticket to your house, if you're speeding or driving too fast, or you run a red light, stop sign, something of that nature, that everything is tracked, traced, and recorded. And so this evening, my good friend Anthony from Godrules will be joining us. And he had just released an hour or so ago a video about the AI technology and how businesses are going to be utilizing it in order to replace human labor and workers, and that it will cause a great setback for a lot of people that are in industries where labor is what they are able to offer in order to make paychecks and to be able to put forth the effort and get paid to support their families and loved ones, and that um, it's going to jeopardize a lot of individuals. We already see how the technology, as far as artists, the text to image creation, and even the AI that is able to spit out a story or to write a narrative, a novel. I mean, it really is amazing. And I think those people that are adapting and that are learning, becoming developers and that are gaining the knowledge of how to utilize such technologies, that they are without a doubt on the forefront. Um, and there's not really a whole lot that have the intelligence. I mean, I was watching a about developers, people that have an idea on how to do code and to create different platforms to utilize the what is the rush of the infrastructure that is being developed to support the adoption, the onboarding of cryptocurrencies. And we see how even today Bitcoin hits 61,000, is nearing its all-time high, and it's a lot of people have been waiting for a pullback, and yet things just continue to skyrocket. Prices continue to go parabolic, and for those that are waiting for a pullback in order to enter into the market, it seems to not be happening. I mean, most that we're getting is 15 to 20% pullbacks, and we're having some days where there's 100% gains. The prices of different cryptocurrencies are doubling, and there has been, I don't know, 7,000% gains on some of these coins. But anyways, and I'm going to do a show at some point about this, and I'm going to do it about money, because I know a lot of people, especially Christians, are against cryptocurrencies, and yet it's just a tool. And when it comes to money, what what would you rather have as far as something that you can send that doesn't cost a lot of money, like with Western Union and MoneyGram and all that, you have to pay enormous fees just to send money, and it takes a long time, and but you can send crypto in literally seconds, and you can send millions of dollars for maybe a dollar or two in transaction fees. I mean, and when it comes to like gold and silver, I mean, you can't cross borders with it. You can't carry 100 pounds of gold or silver. um, and do you want Federal Reserve notes, that are being put out by those that print the money and that control the paper, that literally are making money out of thin air, and then uh, loaning it to governments at interest and forcing people to pay with their taxes just to control the interest on the debt? I mean, it's insanity. They have there's a documentary put out by called The Money Masters, which shows the Ponzi scheme of what is money and how it's just a promissory note. And so, anyways, we're going to go into all that at some point. But Anthony will be joining us tonight about 8:30. He's just, doing the daddy thing and putting his kids to bed. But he runs the YouTube channel called Godrules. He's been doing shows for a very long time. Is very insightful in his relationship with the Most High and has been bringing forth truth for a very long time and has been led to discernment in similar manner as I have on a number of different things, like the feminine ruach, which is, again, something that a lot of people have been hard pressed against. I just still really don't understand it, but and especially when you open yourself to the possibilities of it, it explains things in a convincing manner. And it's just common sense, that we are made in the image of what is the family in heaven, the Father, the Mother, and the only begotten Son, Yahushua, the Word of the Lord. I mean, some things are, uh, in my mind, easy to entertain, and then when you really research them, you are greatly blessed by how they connect so many things. But just want to give a shout out. Hello, Stephanie. So good to see you, sister. We'll have to definitely catch up soon. It's been a little while and been so busy. And also, I did want to reach out. We want to get maybe Sherry, Stephanie, Brick, get you guys to do, ladies, to do the moderation. We do need some other. Hello, good to see you, Lisa. Um, but anyways, so yeah, if you guys would be willing to do that, we're gonna reach out at some point. Everybody knows that last week we had some problems with some trolls that come in. But hello, Jason, and everybody else, Artful Misfit. We appreciate all of you so very much. But I want to share something before Anthony comes on, and it is from the Great Commission, and it's called the Apocalypse of Elijah, and it has to do with the end times and with the way that the Antichrist will make war with the saints, and that he's gonna, you know, uh, try to come after the elect and to do um, harm to believers. And this is going to be just the last portion, which covers how Enoch and Elijah are part, the two witnesses of Revelation 11. But I think this would be a great way to set up the show because it goes into also, um, the image of the beast system coming up and taking, uh, we know according to the prophecy of Daniel that this is what we see, and the AI technology is part of all of this. And so I want to share this before we get into the show. This again is from the Great Commission 3, the Apocalypse of Elijah. This is the latter portion of the text, and I'm going to start right with the coming of Enoch and Elijah. Because as I've stated in numerous shows and done shows about the two witnesses, it is confirmed in multiple places that Enoch and Elijah, even the Gospel of Nicodemus, when the first resurrection, when Adam and his descendants are led back to, and they meet the thief outside of the city of God, New Jerusalem, and then when they enter in therein, they find Enoch and Elijah, and they tell them how they had been preserved to be the witnesses at the end of days that come against the Antichrist. So let me read this, and then we'll go into it further, and Anthony will be on with us, and we'll continue on with the this particular topic. Verse 7. And then when Elijah and Enoch hear that the shameless one has revealed himself in the holy place, they will come down and fight with him, saying, Are you indeed not ashamed when you attach yourself to the saints, because you are always estranged? You have been hostile to those who belong to heaven. You have acted against those belonging to the earth. You have been hostile to the thrones. You have acted against the angels. You are always a stranger. You have fallen from heaven like the morning stars. You were changed, and your tribe became dark for you. But you are not ashamed when you stand firmly against God. You are a devil. The shameless one will hear, and he will be angry, and he will fight with them in the marketplaces of the great city. And he will spend 7 days fighting with them, and they will spend 3.5 days in the marketplace dead, while all the people see them. But on the fourth day they will rise up, and they will scold him, saying, O shameless one, O son of lawlessness, are you indeed not ashamed of yourself, since you are leading astray the people of God, for whom you did not suffer? Do you not know that we live in the Lord? And as the words were spoken, they prevailed over him, saying, Furthermore, we will lay down before the flesh for the spirit, and we will kill you, since you are unable to speak on that day, because we are always strong in the Lord. But you are always hostile to God. The shameless one will hear, and he will be angry, and he will fight against them. And the whole city will surround them. And on that day they will shout up to heaven as they shine, while all the people in all the world see them. The son of lawlessness will not prevail over them. He will be angry at the land, and he will seek to sin against the people. He will pursue all of the saints. They and the priests of the land will be brought back bound. He will kill them and destroy them, and their eyes will be removed with iron spikes. He will remove their skin from their heads. He will remove their nails one by one, and he will command that vinegar and lime be put in their noses. Now, those who are unable to bear up under the tortures of that king will take gold and flee over the fords to the desert places, and they will lie down as one who sleeps. The Lord will receive their spirits and their souls to himself. Their flesh will petrify, and no wild animals will eat them until the last day of the great judgment. And they will rise up and find a place of rest. But they will not be in the kingdom of the Christ as those who have endured, because the Lord said, I will grant to them that they sit on my right hand. They will receive favor over others, and they will triumph over the son of lawlessness, and they will witness the dissolution of heaven and earth. They will receive the thrones of glory and the crowns. The 60 righteous ones who are prepared for this hour will hear, and they will gird on the breastplate of Yahuwah, and they will run to Jerusalem and fight with the shameless one, saying, All powers which the prophets have done from the beginning you have done, but you were unable to raise the dead, because you have no power to give life. Therein we have known that you are the son of lawlessness. He will hear and he will be angry and he will command to kindle the altars, and the righteous ones will be bound, and they will be lifted up and burned. And on that day, the heart of many will harden, and they will flee for him, saying, this is not the Christ. The Christ does not kill the righteous. He does not pursue men so that he might seek them, but he persuades them with signs and wonders, lying wonders. On that day, the Christ will pity those who are his own, and he will send from heaven his 64,000 angels, each of whom has 6 wings. The sound will move heaven and earth when they give praise and glorify. Now, those upon whose forehead the name of Christ is written, and upon whose hand is the seal, both the small and the great, will be taken up upon their wings and lifted up before his wrath. And then Gabriel and Uriel would become a pillar of light leading them into the Holy Land. It will be granted to them to eat from the tree of life. They will wear white garments, and angels will watch over them. They will not thirst, nor will the son of lawlessness be able to prevail over them. And on that day the earth will be disturbed, and the sun will darken, and peace will be removed from the earth. The birds will fall on the earth dead. The earth will be dry. The waters of the sea will dry up. The sinners will groan upon the earth, saying, what have you done to us, O son of lawlessness? Saying that I am the Christ when you are nothing but a devil. You are unable to save yourself, and so that you may save us. You produce signs in our presence until you alienated us from the Christ who created us. Woe to us, because we listened and believed you. Lo, now we will die in a famine, where indeed is now the trace of a righteous one, and we will worship him. Or where indeed is the one who will teach us, and we will appeal to him. Now indeed we will be wrathfully destroyed because we disobeyed Yahuwah. We went to the deep places of the sea, and we did not find water. We dug in the rivers and papyrus reeds, and we did not find water. And then, on that day, the shameless one will speak, saying, woe to me, because my time has passed by from me, while I was saying that my time would not pass by from me. My years became months, my days have passed away, as dust passes away, and now therefore I will perish together with you. Now therefore run forth to the desert, seize the robbers and kill them, bring up the saints, for because of them the earth yields fruit, and for because of them the sun shines upon the earth, and for because of them the dew will come upon the earth. The sinners will weep, saying, you made us hostile to Yahuwah. If you are able, rise up and pursue them yourself. Then he will take his fiery wings and fly out after the saints. He will fight with them again, and the angels will hear and come down. They will fight with him in a battle of many swords. It will come to pass on that day that the Lord will hear and command the heaven and the earth with great wrath, and they will send forth fire. And the fire will prevail over the earth 72 cubits. It will consume the sinners and the devils like stubble. A true judgment will occur, and on that day the mountains and the earth will utter speech. The byways will speak with one another, saying, "Have you heard today the voice of a man who walks and has not come to the judgment of the son of Yahuwah?" The sins of each one will stand against him in the places where they were committed, whether those of the day or the night. Those who belong to the righteous will see the sinners and those who persecuted them, and those who handed them over to death in their torments. And then the sinners in torment will see the place of the righteous, and thus grace will occur. In those days, that which the righteous will ask for many times will be given to them. And on that day, Yahuwah will judge the heaven and the earth. He will judge those who transgressed in heaven and those who did so on earth. He will judge the shepherds of the people. He will ask about the flock of sheep, and they will be given to him without any deadly guile existing in them. And after these things, Elijah and Enoch will come down. They will lay down the flesh of the world, and they will receive their spiritual flesh. They will pursue the son of lawlessness and kill him, since he is not able to speak. On that day he will dissolve in their presence like ice, which was dissolved by a fire. He will perish like a serpent which has no breath in it. Hold on one second, everybody. I'm going to take a sip of water. They will say to him, and I'm almost done here, and then we'll bring on Anthony. They will say to him, "Your time has passed for you. Now, therefore, you and those who believed in you will perish. They will be cast into the bottom of the abyss, and it will be closed for them. On that day, the Christ, the King, and all his saints will come forth from heaven. He will burn the earth. He will spend 1,000 years upon it. And because the sinners prevailed over it, he will create a new heaven and a new earth. No deadly devil will exist in them. He will rule with his saints, ascending and descending while they are always with the angels, and they are with the Christ for 1,000 years. Just a real quick comment. I just wanted you to recognize that it is when the Antichrist kills the two witnesses, in that their bodies lay in Jerusalem for 3.5 days. That is the sign. That is the indicator for the Messiah to return and to rapture the church, and to, once the people, those that are worthy, are caught up and are looking down, he brings forth his judgment upon the earth. He sends forth fire. The stars come crashing to the earth. And as it says, there will be a dissolution. There will be a new heaven and a new earth, for the former things have passed away. And so clearly, as we've been discussing, the Antichrist comes first. All right, let me see if we have Anthony in the background. We'll invite him, and then we'll continue forward. But I thought that would be a perfect way to set up the program and to go into this discussion on the beast system. Here we go. All right, hopefully he is there. But I hope that all of you are blessed and that life is good where you may be. It's certainly a beautiful time. I love the spring, the blooming, and we'll just continue until. Okay, hold on 1 second, everybody. All right, we're trying to pull him in now, so once he accepts the invite, we'll continue forward. But I appreciate everybody, uh, just taking the time to be with us and to share um, this time when we do these live broadcasts to share fellowship. I was watching just the show that Dr. Joy did this past Monday, and just quietly watching the stream and reading the fellowship and the chat. And it's such a beautiful thing to see all of you interacting with one another, supporting and empowering each other. Hey, brother, you there?
Yeah. Hey, how you doing?
All right, man. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. Hope the kids are good. But I just read a portion of the Apocalypse of Elijah. I just watched your last show about the AI, and I was talking about that, and so I think we should begin there. But before we move forward, if you would just share your contact information and where people can go and support your work and find the things that you do.
All right. Yeah, sure. No problem. So my channels on YouTube are Godrules, Godrules, and also Godrules 2, which is Godrules 2 Sons of Thunder, and also the channel Sail Daddy 1, which is all one word, Sail Daddy 1. So those are my 3 channels on YouTube. And then I'm also on Rumble, same names. I'm on BitChute, I think the same names, at least for Godrules, I'm on there. And I'm on Odyssey a little bit as well. But I'm also on Twitter, but they're not really huge presences on all those yet, so, a few thousand, 5,000, something like that, followers on those alternative platforms. I haven't really done enough over there yet, but. So how you been, man?
I've been good, brother. Just really busy with all the stuff that I do. And I think you're wise. We're also trying to, create alternative platform as far as Rumble and other places. I'm sure that YouTube has been censoring you as well and, taking down some of your stuff and all that. And they seem to be doing that with a lot of truth. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. But yeah, can you tell us about some of your research, the things you've been doing, the videos you've been creating, some of the topics that have been of interest to you and what you've been up to? It's been a little while. I think it's been at least a year or two since we connected.
Yeah, it's been a little while, man. I think it's been more than a year or two. I haven't been doing live streams a lot. I would only do one over on my friend's channel, a guy I grew up with. His name's Dr. Thunder on YouTube. But other than that, I haven't done a lot of live streams. I just did one with Understanding Conspiracy, Paul Stobbs, yesterday, and it was like the first time in 8 years. I think the last time we did it was probably a little earlier than that, but I don't think it's been like 2 years. It's probably been like a few more years, but
yeah,
with all the COVID and everything,
it's been a while for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, I've been up to. Oh, I talked about AI, like you were saying. I think there's some really surprising stuff going on in that realm right now. But I've also been talking about what's going on with all these constellational alignments, and there's actually been a lot, and including the solar eclipse coming up in April, on April 8th. It's supposed to eclipse 8 cities called Nineveh, which, of course, Nineveh in the Bible was created by Nimrod or Gilgamesh. And interestingly, if you look at Micah 5, It talks about Jesus. It talks about the prophecy of a ruler will be born in Bethlehem. And if you go to the bottom of the chapter, it talks about this ruler from Bethlehem, the King of Kings. He will rule over the land of Nimrod. And of course, the land of Nimrod would be Nineveh, right? And of course, we have 8 Ninevehs being eclipsed in America on April 8th. And there's actually a ton more. I mean, it's like super long, but there's a lot of stuff. There's actually even an asteroid that eclipsed Betelgeuse, the star Betelgeuse, last year in December, which of course is the power of Orion. It's the arm of Orion. And the Orion is also the legend based on Gilgamesh or Nimrod. So it's again, Gilgamesh being eclipsed, or the power of Gilgamesh. And in Micah 5, it points to Jesus as being essentially Gilgamesh as the adversary of Jesus. So we see this alpha that's going to be written over America with 3 different solar eclipses coming up on April 8th. You have a number of people on here with us, so it's not just you and me.
Oh yeah, no. If you want to go to the chat, we're on the
okay.
live stream. The chat is under Zen Garcia, and so yeah,
Great.
there's a number of people, 82 watching right now. So
I can show what I'm talking about a little bit if you want, real quick.
Yeah. Go ahead and share your screen.
Okay.
My son, he does the live stream, so if he's listening, he'll share. But yeah, and I one comment with regard to the last. Yeah, he's actually gonna share it. But with the last one, it went over a number of cities in America named Salem.
Oh,
so
really?
That's intriguing.
Yeah, I heard that where the crossing point is. I was just talking to my friend earlier. He was saying it's I can't remember the name of the place, but apparently there's a bunch of burial mounds or large mounds there, and it's supposed to be the largest amount in America. Kind of the giants and stuff. That's where it actually crosses.
Is that in Ohio?
I'm not sure. I wish I was listening to him closer, because he told me the name and I just can't remember the name. And I was literally earlier I was talking to him about it, but. Yeah, I still need to research this a lot more. Are you showing them my screen right now? Or
yeah, your screen is showing. Awesome. Thank you, son.
Yeah, so like if you look on Google, Nova Scotia is the only one that's not in totality. Nova Scotia, Nineveh, Nova Scotia is like 95% totality of eclipsing the city Nineveh. But if you go to New York or Missouri or Virginia or Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, even Indiana, where I live, all of these Ninevehs are being eclipsed. And let me show you the one regarding Micah 5 here. I'll just read a little bit of it. It says here, but you, Bethlehem, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel. And that's verse 2 of Micah 5. And then, of course, you go down to the bottom, and it talks about the land of Nimrod. Let's see if I can find that real quick. Yeah, here we go. Who will rule the land of Assyria with the sword, the land of Nimrod with drawn sword? So, of course, what I believe has been going on, you've heard of the book, you heard about the chapter of the book of Esther that was removed?
No. Tell us about it.
Well, what's really interesting is, out of all the books that are still in the Bible, there's 2 books that had one chapter. Or actually, there's more than one. There's actually Psalms as well. You have Psalms, you had like a couple chapters removed. You had the book of Esther, and you had the book of Daniel. Now, if you look at Esther and Daniel, the chapters that are removed are about dragons. So you had Bel and the dragon, and Daniel. And the book of Esther has a story about Mordecai having a dream of Mordecai and Haman fighting as dragons. Like, one's a good dragon, one's an evil dragon.
Wow.
And we're in the year of the dragon. We're also in the year of the open door.
Right.
And I believe we're actually in this. There's this thing called, where is it at? I got it around here somewhere. Is it this one? Yeah, here we are. Have you ever heard of Onas? Apparently like 500-year segments of time.
No.
We're essentially, so like, we're actually, essentially this year is the 500 years since the last time it's been switched. So what the whole idea is, like, if you look at the chapter, that was removed from the book of Esther. It's about Mordecai's dream. I think I have that around here somewhere, right here. And what's interesting about it, it shows like two dragons fighting, and it's basically world powers fighting. And it's like, who's going to be in control of the world? And so what's interesting about this whole thing is if you look at the story of Esther, it's like a sort of a crucial point for Israel where it could be destroyed, right? Or it could be saved.
Right.
And in King Arthur's time, apparently King Arthur also, Merlin had a dream about two dragons as well, Merlin the magician. And what's interesting about this is the red dragon represented the Saxon, no, the red dragon represented Wales and the white dragon represented the Saxons. And right after that, the Saxons took over for 1,000 years. So I think every 500 years, there's this power shift in the world. And the last time it happened was during the time of King Henry VII, which is about 500 years ago. So I think we're actually coming on a power shift. And this is what I think the elite know about. I think the elite know all about this because there's actually evidence that they know about this as well, because you've heard of the Revelation 12 sign, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's really interesting about the Revelation
with the sun.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about that one is if you span out, okay, so back in September 2017 is when we had the Rev 12 sign, right? September 23rd. So in September 23rd of 2023, we had sort of like a fulfillment happen where an asteroid was delivered from her, via Virgo. There's an asteroid that went through this area. And that asteroid's name was, where did it go? Goodness, just a sec here. The asteroid's name is 6,000 United Nations. So this to me tells me that the elite know all about this stuff and that they follow it themselves, because what it was saying is Revelation 12 talks about something being born, right? And to rule essentially to rule the nations, right? So what did they have as the asteroid being birthed by Virgo in the Rev 12 sign? They named it the asteroid 6,000 United Nations. So the United Nations being born by the Revelation 12 sign. And that's probably, isn't that weird?
Yeah, that is weird.
So like, I think I figured out something. It's not just me. I have a researcher that finds all this stuff because I don't have time to like research a million things, but he researches a lot of this stuff, and I've been researching it for a long time as well. And it says in the text of Revelation 12, there's a great red dragon at her feet. And if you look at this constellational alignment right here, Serpens is at her feet. And if you look at the ancient Greek, it's the word serpent. It's not the word dragon, because dragons can be serpents as well. And it says he'll have 7 heads and 10 horns. But actually, if you look at, there's 7 stars in the head and there's 10 stars in the tail, and it says he'll have a crown, seven crowns, and there's actually a crown for the serpent. That's a certain constellation called Corona Borealis, and Corona Borealis has 7 stars in it. And in a sense, I think this is another example of the elite using the stars to represent things. So like we had the coronavirus, right?
Right.
So this Revelation 12 sign happened in 2017. The crown to the gray red dragon is the Corona Borealis, or the coronavirus. You see what I mean? So I think that's, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is crazy. And especially with how it, shut everything down.
But I think
what
I think it is like the devil's trying to put his agenda through the stars, but God's, I think, going to deny it. And the reason why I think he's going to deny it is because of all these eclipses of Gilgamesh's power in America. So I think, and this is just a theory, is that we're going to see some huge changes coming up next year to where maybe we'll see a win of the culture war where we won't have all this evil over us anymore. You know what I mean? This is what I'm hoping.
That's very interesting because I had seen something put forth by Trey Smith, and he was talking about the vision and the prophecies of Kim Clement, who was somebody that had talked about how Trump would be elected president when this was like all completely, nobody, this was like way left field kind of stuff. But anyways, he talked about also that there was supposedly going to be another where there would be, he would come in, power again, that there would be this time of peace where there would be this almost like, the scriptures say peace and then comes sudden destruction. And
Right.
so he was talking about the same kind of thing. But yeah, please continue.
No, no, man, you're. I mean, I actually watched that video as well, and he also
Oh,
mentioned
okay,
about.
great, great. Then you
Yeah,
know what
yeah,
I'm talking about. Yeah.
yeah, 100%, man. He was also talking about Bob Jones' prediction that when the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, that there will be a rising of apostolic chiefs, which means essentially what's going on is, according to all these prophets, because I've been kind of looking into all this, like Mark Taylor, he predicted Trump would be president. He predicted that Roe versus Wade would be overturned. Mark Taylor's also predicted
Wow.
there's going to be an overturning of power, and we're going to see sort of like the corrupt church fall and the corrupt government fall, and we're going to see a rising up of real leaders in the church, and we're going to see all this corruption essentially go to the wayside. And of course, they're talking about essentially Baal, the spirit of Baal being over America, and all this, and it
Uh-huh.
makes sense. I mean, we're like the land of Nimrod, right? We're not obviously it's being ruled by evil people right now, so it
Yes.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Right.
but it is really weird. I mean, the Bob Jones one, he made that prediction like in 1979, and then the first time they won was 2020. Then they won in 2023, and then we had that Asbury revival for a year, and then we just won again in 2024. That's the third win. And then there's some people tying it into like the third day Jesus rose, so the apostolics will rise the third day or the third win or something. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I guess we'll see what happens, right? So
Right. Yeah.
of course, this is all kind of guesswork and looking at a bunch of stuff, but it's just kind of interesting, So,
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very interesting. And I would be down for some good days and have a reprieve from all the evil and the insanity we see in the world. So yeah, it would be, like a Josiah moment for America. That would be a
oh yeah,
beautiful thing to see us, get back to our roots and God we trust, that kind of thing. But yeah,
yeah, man, King Josiah, right? Yeah, he turned things
yeah,
around, right? I don't remember the story, but I remember he was a good king, if I remember correctly, right?
yeah. He
Yeah.
he was the one that that changed and broke down all the altars of Baal and turned the Israel back to the worship of Yahuwah and brought in, restored all of the faithfulness of the community and their relationship with the Most High. It reminds me of a story that I had shared in the Thracian Chronicles, which is not very well known about, but in the story, it talked about the Thracian Empire and how they had collapsed. And a lot of people don't know that this empire preceded the Sumerian, and that they were believers in the Lamb of God, the Word of the Lord. And anyways, the reason they were starting to degrade was because they abandoned the support of the priesthood and also the support of the poor through the priesthood. That the Levitical priesthood, they, with the donations and with the offerings that people gave, they would support the less fortunate and the orphans and the widows and those that had circumstances where they were not able to care or take care of themselves. And when the people started to abandon the kindness that the church is supposed to do in helping and take care of the less fortunate, then the Most High brought judgment and condemnation upon them as a people and as a culture. But same thing with Josiah. And so what happened is that they restored, the commitment to giving, and the way that the Most High has established, in my opinion, is that the more you give and in the kindness of your heart, that's how you also will be blessed, and you reap what you sow. And that's the way that he's established, that we are supposed to give, and that's how we are also blessed. And the way that they teach in the culture is that we're supposed to be competitive one another, that
Yeah.
people are supposed to hoard and not be concerned with the common good or their brothers or neighbors or anything like that, and that's
Yeah.
what creates the insanity in the world. But go ahead,
I agree
brother.
with you, man. That makes total sense. I mean, it's kind of like the culture, even in business, they've gotten away from like sort of having a family culture, and it's more about dog eat dog, individualistic,
Yes,
all for myself.
yes,
And you're seeing kind of how it's being. I mean, they're now just sending emails to people that they fire. I mean, you could be sitting at home and they don't even care, They just send you an
right.
email. You're gone. And I mean, yeah, it is like that these days. It's really very selfish in how
Yeah.
people are. And I agree with you, like what you're saying about Josiah and this kingdom before Sumerians. It sounds kind of similar, like with what was happening with King Arthur, uh, and how it turned into the Middle Ages after that. So it was 1,000 years of peace during the Middle Ages, and then we had King Henry VII. Is around the time that it switched back to the Red Dragon, which of
Hmm.
course after that we had the scientific revolution, we had the Age of Enlightenment. Now we got Walmart and Slurpees. Unlike before, they had these beautiful buildings. Now we just build these really trash buildings, and there's no art in it, and
Right.
you know, it's just funny looking into all that.
Yeah. Uh, I was also going to mention because there is built into the narrative, as far as we see in the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's the the war scroll, the war of the sons of light with the sons of darkness, and there is this competitive where they're vying for control over one another, and it goes back and forth for these 7 generations until with the seventh generation, of course, speaks about the Son of God and Yahuwah establishing an eternal kingdom, and how the former things will be swept away, and the devil and evil and all that will be, finally, judgment will come in and justice will be served, and that will be a beautiful thing. But I also wrote about in my Vestures of Light, the 10 Kings. There's a prophecy that speaks about how the power in the world would go back and forth between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, and how Nimrod, that he
Yeah.
uh, was, he did establish almost like this new world order back in those times,
What was the
before it was
text that
turned
said
back
that?
over to Joseph. But go ahead, brother.
No, what was the text you said that?
It's called the Prophecy of the 10 Kings. It's from a book I wrote called the Vestures of Light and the Rod of Wonder, and that particular prophecy is found in the Perky Rabbi Eleazar, which is a book from the first century.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
Eleazar Hyrcanus, he was the high priest during the time that Messiah was in mortal embodiment.
Wow.
In
Okay.
Maccabees 4, he was the high priest that was tortured along with his 7 sons, because they were trying to get him to eat food sacrificed unto idols,
Oh yeah.
and they felt if Antiochus Epiphanes, the fourth, who was the Greek king at that time, he felt that if he could get the high priest to do it, that the rest of the Israelites would follow.
Right. Makes
And
sense. Yeah, it
yeah,
makes perfect sense. You go for the strongest link first.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Have you ever heard? You've interviewed a lot of people. Have you heard of the Noel Hadley? He's on the.
yeah. I just had him on
Oh, okay.
the last week, as a matter of fact. Yeah, we
Right.
did a
Yeah.
show. Yeah.
Excellent, man. So, did you guys talk about? I'm assuming probably the Millennial Kingdom or something, right? Or
Yeah,
no?
we were talking about mud floods and the Millennial Kingdom, and
Right.
yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, that was the topic, and the Tartarian and all that, and um,
Excellent.
yeah.
Great stuff,
So hold
man.
on, brother.
Go ahead.
We're 1 minute out from break, and
Okay.
so when we come back, we'll get into this topic and whatever else
Okay.
that you want to cover, and
Sounds good, man.
yeah, so consider it. All right, we'll be right back, everybody.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
We will not comply with the institution's sick illusion. No, it won't be televised. Welcome to the revolution. We will not comply with the institution's sick illusion. No, it won't be televised. Welcome to the revolution. They're trying to dumb us down. Don't want us to make us down. We gotta get out, 'cause it's a revolution.
Revolution.radio, freedomslips.com.
Join me at Revolution Radio, Studio B, at 11 a.m. on Saturday for free association, when we take a look at philosophy, spirituality, psychology, social issues, and geopolitics. It's every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern on Studio B at freedomslips.com.
Transcending time and space, let us take you to the place inside your mind where thoughts divide and mysteries unwind. Join us every Monday evening right here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And you will catch the Fenton Perspective with our great host, Lorian Fenton. Come listen in as she shares her amazing stories from the past to present, along with all of her guest secrets to the future. That's the Fenton Perspective every Monday evening right here from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Revolution Radio. Oh, and you don't need to expect us. We're already here.
If you think for 1 second that the Capitol will ever treat us fairly, you are lying to yourselves. Because we know who they are and what they do. This is what they do, and we must fight back. You can torture us and bomb us. Fire is catching. And if we burn, you burn with us.
Good evening.
Are you awake yet? I hope. We've tried and we've tried for years and years to use passive resistance and loud voices to make a change. The time is over. Your governments around the world have no other goal than to decimate your entire existence at the hands of the bankers and the elites. The war is coming, and it's your choice to decide if you want to be a warrior or a victim. Denial is not a choice anymore. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the planet. Not giving up. Revolution Radio. All right. Thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
All right, welcome back, everybody, for a second hour. And just so you know, Tony, we are, sharing your screen. So,
Oh, okay.
Whatever,
I was just
but
opening everything.
it's all good. But wanted to give you a chance to comment. What do you think about, as far as Tartaria and, missing time and all of that? How do you feel the mud flood stuff? Do you have any idea on all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I actually had two dreams that kind of led me more to it. I was researching it even 3 years ago, but at the time I was kind of on the fence, like, does this even make any sense? Could have Jesus already came back at one point in the past, things like this.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if he mentioned anything to you about back in AD 70 over Jerusalem, there was chariots in the clouds. Have you heard of that before? Or?
No.
Okay.
But Noel and I have done a number of different shows, and we publish his books, and and he has released, a whole big volume on this. So, but
no, it's I don't even know if he talks about this, but there's actually this event that happened over Jerusalem back in AD 66 approximately, where there was chariots in the clouds. Flavius Josephus talks about it in his writings. Tacitus. There's actually three major historians that talk about this event, and that there were spirits or something in the temple that said we're going to leave, and they left at the same time. And of course, I thought that was really interesting. And then, of course, on top of that, you have kind of what happened at the fall of Rome, which leads me to believe that's maybe when Jesus came back and set up his kingdom in the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages, 1,000-year potential millennial reign. Some say, I don't know, there's a lot of different theories, but I kind of feel like maybe that's what happened. Was the fall of Rome was actually the essential end of the world. And he points out in this book here, Noel does, about how there's actually predictions of when Jesus would come in various apocryphal texts, and they're very accurate. Let me show you what I'm referring to. And you're showing my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So this is from his own article. This is from Noel Hadley, his Unexpected Cosmology. In the book of First Adam and Eve, it talks about after 5,500 years are fulfilled, at that time, Adam will get the fruit of the tree of life. And then it talks about over here in Second Adam and Eve, after the end of great 5 days and a half, concerning which I made a promise to thee and thy father, I will send my word and save thee and thy seed. And I think he's referring to Adam there. He's talking to Adam about sending of Jesus. And then in the book of Adam, it's even more direct. It says, then after 5,500th year, the beloved son of Elohim, Messiah, will come upon the earth and resurrect Adam's body from the fall. Because of the transgression of the commands, he will come and be baptized in the river Jordan. So, I mean, it's extremely to the point of what's going to happen. And so at the 5,500th year point is when Jesus would be born. Now, if you use the original AM calendar, like the one that Flavius Josephus uses, that's, 5,500 would basically be around, 0 AD or whatever when Jesus was born, right? So if that's the case, it talks about there being 6,000 years total. So if you add 500 years to that, you get the fall of the Roman Empire. So there's even other texts. You have the Gospel of Nicodemus that predicts it. You even have this one over here, predicting the two olive trees will be Elijah and Enoch in the Greek Gospel of Bartholomew.
Yeah, I just talked about that. That's funny.
Right. So I believe that actually, and if you look at the Encyclopedia Britannica, a book that used to be printed on your bookshelf back here, not something digital like Wikipedia, where they can't just, edit it at any time and change it. The Encyclopedia Britannica talked about how there were lots of Christians that believed the end of what do they call it? They called it the apocalyptic millennialism, where they believed that Jesus was going to come back around 500 AD. But St. Augustine and Jerome were very much against this. And matter of fact, even Jerome came up with AM2 calendar, where he tried to claim that Jesus was born 300 years earlier. So he's literally trying to lie about when Jesus was born, just to get people to stop believing that the end of the world was coming at 500 AD. So at the time of fall, 500 AD was the fall of the Roman Empire, basically around 417 to 476. 3 Germanic tribes conquered Rome. And what's interesting about it, it talks in Daniel about 3 horns giving the power to a little horn that spoke arrogantly. And I could pull that up. Maybe I don't have it in front of me because I'd have too many windows open if I pulled all this stuff up. I don't even know. I got so many windows. Just a sec here. But basically, the idea is that it predicts that these 3 Germanic tribes would conquer Rome and then give the power to the Pope. So the Pope back then, one of the Pope's names is Pope Sixtus III. And if you think about it, Sixtus is the number 6 in Latin. The third means 3 times. So Pope 666 was around 440 AD. And there's very little information about Pope Sixtus III, but that was around the time of the fall of the Roman Empire, right in the middle of it, actually. So it says in Revelation to watch out for the number 666, right? And so there's also a legend about this guy that he required a mark. I actually saw some weird legend about it that he required a mark to buy and sell back then. So what's really weird about this, of course, all the eschatology today is basically based off the Schofield Bible. It's based off Left Behind series with Tim LaHaye and all those guys that made that movie. And everybody believes that we haven't even had the millennial kingdom and that we're still waiting for the rapture, when it could have already happened in the past, and we already could have had the millennial kingdom. And it says, of course, that the devil will be in the bottomless pit this entire time, and then he'll get out, and he'll go forth to deceive the nations for a little season. A little season, I'm guessing it's already been 500 years. That's 1 day is 1,000 years. That's a little season. So the devil has been quite busy ever since he got out of the bottom. I believe he got out of the bottomless pit around the time of Joan of Arc, according to my dream. I had 2 dreams about this, and it basically led me on a bread trail to Gilda Ray, who was like a serial killer during the Middle Age, right around the time of Joan of Arc. He was like the first serial killer in like 1,000 years. But so I think actually the Millennial Kingdom was probably the Middle Ages. And the mud flood, of course, that has to do with all the judgment, things being shook, the earth being shook. You have liquefaction and things like that. That's probably what that is all about. And of course, you had all those buildings. He probably talked about the World Fairs when he was here, right, or something.
Say that one more time.
Did he talk about the World Fairs or something like that? He talks about a lot of stuff, but I mean,
yeah,
he's a smart guy. Yeah, he's a smart guy. He's a really smart guy. I had him on my show like about a month ago. So guy knows a lot.
Right,
that guy knows a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we've done
go ahead.
3 shows on this topic.
What's that?
Noel and I, we've done 3 shows on this topic as far as the millennial
all
kingdom.
Right, yeah. So that's just kind of what I think. I kind of based it on that
mud
stuff.
floods and all that.
Go ahead.
Oh, and the mud floods and all that. I personally don't believe the millennial has happened, but I do, without a doubt, believe that the 5,500 years prophecy about the coming of Christ, that is when he came, and that was fulfilled. And that I wrote a book called The Ancient Prophecies of Christ, where I share all these multiple witnesses that talk about this. And, I questioned even in that book about, well, if he was born 5,500 years after Adam was banished from paradise, how does that make sense in the timeline that we've always been raised with and that we believe in? Because, most people assume that from Adam to Abraham is 2,000 years, from Abraham to Christ was 2,000 years, and then from Christ to The second advent is another 2,000 years. That would be 6,000 years, and then there's this 1,000 year for the millennial reign. But as you said, if he came 5,500 years, which is there's multiple prophecies, and I'll actually share one after this, one that most people are not familiar with, because you do find it in the Gospel of Nicodemus, the primary Adamic literature, the first book of Adam and Eve, and there's another text called the Angel of Abaddon, which also, speaks about this. But you find this timeline in the Septuagint,
Yep,
and
yep.
in the Gospel of Nicodemus, it breaks it down, as far as what happened to when, to when, to when. And so, yeah, a lot to consider with regard to this prophecy. And
Actually, I'll
without a
show a
doubt,
screenshot. I'll show a screenshot
Go
that
ahead.
fits what. I'll show a screenshot that actually, Matt, it says what you're saying real quick here. I got to get past an advertisement though. Here we go. So you can see right here, this is what you're talking about right here, where the Greek Septuagint and the Flavius Josephus, Samarian Pentateuch all have the correct numbers for the dates of these people. And the Hebrew Masoretic has it modified. They removed 100 years on each one of these people. And that's what you're referring to, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and there's actually more to it than that, because it's 5,500 years, right? It's like actually quite a bit. It's way more than a
Right.
few hundred years, right?
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, like, and the Dead Sea Scrolls also back that up, right? I'm pretty sure. I'm almost. I haven't checked myself, but I'm sure it does. The Dead Sea Scrolls back up the Septuagint on that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly, as far as, but I do believe that there is some, again, with this 5,500 year prophecy, because it's found
Right,
everywhere. It's in all the primary Adamic literature.
right.
Yeah.
I agree with you, man. I 100% agree. And it's really interesting if you type in, see, this was called AM1. This was the original AM calendar, and they've swapped it. So like if you go to Google and you type in AM1, it will show you AM3. So instead of it showing the actual AM1 calendar, it will show the Hebrew Masoretic AM3 calendar. AM2 was the one created by Jerome, where he tried to add or tried to subtract 300, or how do you say it? He tried to make Jesus born 300 years earlier. I actually have it here. This is what I was talking about. This is one of these articles from the Encyclopedia Britannica. And it's really interesting looking into that, because like Tataria, if you look at Wikipedia, Tataria is just said to be a placeholder for Asia. But if you look at Tataria in the Encyclopedia Britannica, it tells you it was a kingdom. So it's really interesting. Like the older the historical book, the more accurate it seems to be, the less they're trying to scrub things out of it. So it's much better to read old history books or things that are.
Agreed.
Yeah, man, it's like really weird. It's like looking at think of Tom Horn. He had some history books from like the 1600s that were talking about giants and stuff, and during the time of the Spanish conquistadors. But of course, modern day historians, they just ignore that. They ignore all that stuff.
Right.
They ignore what Marco Polo wrote. They ignore the dragons that he wrote about. I mean, it's really amazing, because they'll reference these historians like Tacitus and Flavius Josephus. They'll reference them like they're professional historians. They're credible, but then they'll cherry pick stuff and report on that. But then the other stuff they don't believe in, or they don't like, or doesn't fit the narrative, they'll just throw out. And a lot of people just assume they're telling you faithfully what they said, and they don't do that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that's always the way of it, even like with the conquerors and those that control culture, they always put what they want to. I mean, the whole thing as far as Tartaria being removed from history, and then we see all these things on the world maps, as far as the Tartarian Empire and how it was widespread, even all the way here to Americas, and all that is ignored. I mean, yeah, there's a lot that we're not being told, that we don't understand, and that we're being forced to reconsider. And I think that, this time that the Most High, without a doubt, is opening up and bringing forth new light and a lot of information to consider. And there's a lot of extra biblical and, the new like even what I was talking about with the Thracian, there's a whole set of Thracian chronicles and Thracian
Wow.
epistles that are now just being translated. Were part of that work, but it even teaches, like the feminine ruach in the
Oh,
Thracian.
okay.
Yeah, they speak about how the the Israelites, they had revered a holy an Elohim being a holy trinity that included a feminine ruach, and that's something that you and I took a lot of
Wow.
heat for a long
I've
time
never
ago.
I've
But
never even
yeah,
heard of this kingdom you're talking about. So it's before Sumerians, right? What is it called again?
yeah, it's called the Thracian Empire. But
Wow.
I've got a whole playlist, on my channel about the
Right.
Thracian Chronicles. Yeah,
So
it's
so
just all this material is not even found in English yet, and we're working with the Thracian Church to bring forth this information into English. And yeah, it covers a lot of truth, like the enmity between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, all of that, things that pre-existence, the things that I've been just hated for, and especially with
oh
the
yeah,
feminine ruach.
you
Yeah,
came to that same idea or conclusion as I did around the same frame
exactly.
almost.
Yeah,
It was really strange. We like almost came to it around the very same time frame. And then you had
right,
me on
right.
around that time too, I think. Or you had me on before or after. It was something like that. It was right around that time you
Yeah,
had
it
me on.
was right around that time. Yeah, both of us
Yeah, we
were
both
led
got flack
into
for that.
sermon.
There's a lot of people that don't like that. Obviously, they think it's like even blasphemous to say that, which is really
Oh, I know,
ridiculous.
I know.
I mean, it's ridiculous because what I do is I just say, look at Proverbs 8. It says in the Greek
Exactly.
Septuagint, the word Sophia. It says it's any major theologian will agree it's God, that wisdom is God in
Right.
Proverbs 8.
Exactly. Yeah.
They'll all agree, but they'll say it's Jesus, that's the Ruach, or Jesus is
Right.
the wisdom, right? And then, but it
Yes.
says it's a female right in the text. Like Jesus is not a
Exactly.
female. Is he a transgender? Is he
Right.
cross-dressing? Like what's going on here, you know? I mean,
Right.
obviously the father's not a female, so it's like 1 + 1 = 2 to me. I mean, it's just like you only got three of them. Jesus clearly is not a female. The father's clearly not a female, unless we're going to make God into a transgender now. So there's only one left, and it
Right.
is very similar. I mean, it's talking to people, and it's a spirit talking and trying to get people to act right. Sounds quite a bit like this Holy Spirit, right? So
Absolutely.
that's like the simplest thing. I just take people through the logic on it, and it's like they explain to me where my logic's wrong. I mean, it's very simple logic. I mean, you don't even need any other verses. I mean, there's so many other ways you can argue it. I mean, there's like a million, but that's like a very simple one that they can't really, argue themselves out of, I don't think. It's too hard. I mean, how are they going to argue themselves out of it? Right?
Yeah.
So
Male
they
and
just
female
yeah.
created they them. I mean, come on.
God's they them now, right? Yeah. Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
I
really
don't get it either, brother. But yeah, so many people hate it. I don't get it.
I was thinking there was a lot of writings that were not available to the public that would probably defend a lot of things. So, like I was talking to my researcher, and he's talking about the Sumerian texts are the oldest texts. I'm like, you know what? I really don't believe
They're
that.
not.
You
This
got the Noah
actually confirms
fragments, you
that
got
too.
lots of stuff, and I know they're just not showing us it, right? You
Right.
go ahead, man. Sorry, I'll let you go because you're gonna say something.
Oh no, I was just commenting on what you said, and yeah, you're absolutely right. And this is, the amazing thing about this information is that it does confirm what we're talking about, and not only that, but it shows that, because everybody thinking that the Sumerian information is the oldest in the world, they believe that the Bible and the tenets of our faith and the traditions, that all of that was plagiarized and taken from pagan manuscripts, and it's absolutely not the truth. In fact, the opposite is true, because the Thracian Empire and the Thracian people, they preceded the Sumerians by 1,500 to 2,000 years. They
So,
were
what
the
time frame?
oldest empire, the first one established after the flood, after the deluge of Noah's day. And in the story, one of the books, it's called the Book of Navi. It tells the story of Orpheus, who we know the story of Orpheus from Greek mythology, but In the Thracian, he was a priest king that was led by the word of the Lord, the Lamb of God, to the discovery of what was the testaments of the patriarchs and the prophets, that he was led to the cave of treasures, and that where Noah had buried all of the information that had been passed on
Wow.
and through the ark, he was led to this ancient city and had to dig them up. And then he was given, like Abraham was in Jubilees chapter 12, the ability to read this ancient Paleo Hebrew language, which the Thracian script is pictographic, and it actually is the origin for what became the Egyptian hieroglyphic system. There
Makes
was a
sense.
book that was released in 2016 by two brothers, Dr. Stephen Guide and his brother Savetin, who's a bishop of the Thracian Church, and he's my contact with all of this
Wow.
information. But anyways,
Dude, I want to do a
uh,
video on this. You got to send me some of this
I've
stuff.
done
Man. I'm really.
many videos on this. You'll have
Oh
to
yeah,
check it out.
you got to.
Like
I got to go
said, there's
find
a whole
those.
playlist on this.
Maybe you can send me a link to the playlist or something like that. I want to check that
Yeah,
out.
yeah, I will after this show. I'll do that. But
Awesome.
the reason it's so important is because again, it shows that the Thracians knew about and they revered the Elohim, the triune Godhead, which included the feminine Holy Spirit. And so it confirms that they were believers in Yahushua, in Christ. They knew that he would be the Passover lamb that takes away the sins of the world. All of this is shared. Matter of fact, after I do this, I'll pull up one, just a chapter from one of the books, and I'll share it with you, and it'll give you an idea as to their belief system. But
Yeah,
again,
if you got a link to the books too, man, I want to check that out too, for sure.
oh yeah, yeah, you're gonna be absolutely blown away by this.
Sounds
But
awesome, man. This sounds like really,
I'll
really good
let you
stuff.
comment, and I'll pull it up, and I'll share a chapter with you.
100%. That sounds awesome. Oh, and what you said reminded me. I'm sure you've heard of Dr. Michael Heiser.
Yeah.
It reminded me of him talking about the two powers, and Jesus was the one in the burning
Right.
bush and stuff like that. But of course, that what you're talking about is like even a more fuller understanding because it's got the Trinity, right?
Yes, exactly.
And it sounds like really amazing what you're saying. I really like to see this. It also reminded me of like Shangdi with the Chinese. They had some writings that were that predated the Genesis by 1,000 years that actually said the same thing Genesis said, which I think it was like the sort of like the founding kingdom after the Tower of Babel wrote down, and they actually had like sort of a border religion, kind of like to Yahuwah or Yahweh or however you want to say it. Which way do you say it, anyways?
Yahuwah, yes.
Yahuwah, okay, yeah. So like they would essentially do some sort of border sacrifices and stuff, and I think that was maybe the first religion where, of course, the angel that was over China led them the right direction before they fell, right?
Right.
Worshiping the fire. So it was interesting that they had texts that were predating Genesis saying the same thing as Genesis. So it makes it obvious that there was stuff way before Genesis written, and that was like sort of a compilation of it, you know?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, man. I want to see that. That sounds awesome, man. That sounds like a good video.
Yeah.
Right there.
Oh, you're going to be absolutely mind blown. I'm going to take a sip of water and then I'll share with you the chapter.
All right, cool. Sounds good, man. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about, man. I didn't really have anything open other than the solar eclipse stuff. That's all I had open.
Oh no, this is good. I think the Spirit is leading us, and all these things that we're covering are very important. And for new audience and for people that are not familiar, this is going to be a great blessing. But yeah, let me just share with you. This is from the book of Atom and Ua, which is I believe it's the oldest rendition of what is the life of Adam and Eve. And this chapter is not found in any of the other versions that you find in the world. And it, like you said, it lines up with not only John chapter 1, but Genesis as well. So I'll read this chapter and then get you to comment. It says this: In the beginning, there was nothing whatsoever. There was only one. And there was nothing that the one could have except for everything he had inside of him, because he was everything. There was not time, there was no place, and no sound. There was not a single ray, there was not anything but the One. And the One did not even have a name, because nobody ever called him by his name, since there was nobody who could call him by his name. And there was no language in which he could be called, neither the sound in which his name could be called upon, nor was there an image with which he could appear. And from this One, everything is and everything was made, because he wished it to happen. And when he wished, there was nobody he could give it to, and there was nobody who could fulfill his wish, because the wish was love, and there was not yet an object to this love. But because love only gives and takes nothing, he, the One, gave, and the thing that he gave was a name, because the name that he saw was his own name, and the name was, quote, the One who gives. In his language, it was Nute, that is, who gives. But because he gave, the name was like a giving hand, the hand of the One. This name, we call it today God, but the first humans called him Nute in the language of the first speech. This was even the very first word ever pronounced in the world, and like a stretched forth giving hand, calling himself the giving one. He gave the first thing without which nothing could be, and the first coexistential, co-substantial thing, which came from himself. He called it light, and in the language, he called it Ray, which means the Word of God, because there is no light without the Word of God. And when the Word of God appeared, it outflew from God himself, who is Ua, namely the One, and was called Rhea, that is the Word of the One. This was the Spirit who gives birth to everything, and this Spirit, the One, saw and loved with all his wish. That is why this is the Spirit of love in the One, the Creator of life, which became the mother of everything. The One wanted and wished the Spirit, and because of this, love was born the life which appeared visually. This was the time when life became visual for the first time. That is the I am, the is, which means to see, and he who sees everything. And because he could see everything, he created everything, for he had the power to create the being. And the one giving, that is Nute, was his father, and the outflowing light from the one, Rhea, was his mother, and he was born by the two, who was their son. The only son from the Father, that is the one who sees everything and is almighty, whose name is Isus, or Jesus, Yahushua. He is the very thing in the womb of Rhea, which is Re, that is God, the Word. He is also the co-substantial in the Father, because he is the consciousness of his Father, who is Nute, that is the only one who gives. Through him everything came, and nothing came without him. Everything that was done, and from him came the first words, and from him appeared the first visualization. And whatever he said, it was seen and became a being. And nobody knew what was in the being but only him who said it through his word from the beginning to the end, because he knew what he said, and everything that he said would become visual and have its place in time, because there was something was said and would appeared the time and the place, the visual and the invisible in it, and outside of it there appeared was the first heavenly place, which is the place where God Nute dwells himself, together with Rhea and Isis, And this is the place for the wish love of the one who is in the three. This place is most inaccessible, except for those who the one in the three has made it possible. They see his face for eternity. And under this place, there is another heavenly place, according to the system and the grades, chosen once by Nute himself, Rhea and Isis. There he also created the earth, which is a paradisical garden in which flows milk, honey, and wine, and its trees give birth to the bread of life. So whoever eats from them will not die, but will live eternally, as God himself lives eternally. And from there drops down the river of life to all the living worlds, in which river flows the living water, giving life to all. And in the fourth directions till the end of the universe. From the humans, it was not allowed to know about all these worlds. But if there would be anybody worth the slaughtered lamb from the day of the creation of the world, whose name is Isis, it will be allowed to learn about the worlds one after another, till they will know them all as he, the God himself, became known, and will live together with Isis for eternity in the bosom of the Father, and in the womb of the Holy Mother, the Spirit, Rhea. And I'm almost done too. And
Wow.
all these worlds begin in God's city, which is the city of truth, Jerusalem, and the city of peace, namely Salem. Blessed are those who are
Oh, wow.
worthy of God's Lamb, who will be allowed to pass through his gates, because nothing unclear can pass through, nor a mortal
Oh
who
my goodness.
commits sins. And that's the first chapter of the
Well,
Thracian book of Atum and Ua.
that was written a long time ago, obviously.
Yes,
Uh,
yeah.
2000.
But
How long ago was that, man? Thousands of
it
years ago,
dates
obviously.
back to, like before the Sumerian. It was actually said to be released by this king named Sistakes, which was like he ruled during the 3rd or 2nd century BC, and this was ancient even in his time. That these were ancient manuscripts that were passed down by this
So,
Orpheus.
so when
Which
was
again,
like
go
three
ahead.
what BC would it be? Like when did you think it? When do you think like if it was the time it was really originally written? When would you think that would have been?
Oh goodness, I don't even know, but I think it was past.
Thousands of BC somewhere, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was the 2nd, 3rd century BC. It has a
Yeah.
connection to the name, that where they found it, and it was passed down. That the name of the king was Sistakes. I'll see if I can
So what
find.
you're saying is like, okay, so even at the time of a few
Oh, here it
centuries
is. Here it
BC.
is.
Okay, go ahead.
It says, and this is a footnote. It says, King Sitalkes was a Thracian king who ruled in Thrace in the 5th century BC. And he had this information from the books of the Thracian priest Orpheus. Accordingly to the ancient oral traditions from deep
Okay.
antiquity, it's leading to a time of around 5500 BC.
Okay,
And
that
parts
sounds
of the
right.
text of this book were later adopted into other religious books. So,
Well, there's a lot
yeah,
of things to point out there, unpack. Like for one, they said it was an oral tradition, which is that sounds correct with how it was back then.
right.
Also, you said Salem. What was really interesting, like when I was reading earlier some quotes from I think the Book of Adam, it said something about him being baptized in the River Jordan, and you mentioned here Jerusalem. It sounded like, right, or
Yes.
Jerus. So it's like these places existed even like 5000 BC, even like these
Right.
places already were there way before any modern understanding of where these places were. So
Right.
it's really interesting that these books were written like that far back, and there was a River Jordan, there was Jerusalem or obviously it's probably much different than what we see today, but you know what I mean. So
Yes.
when you said Salem, though, that was really interesting because that was what you mentioned about one of the solar eclipses, and that also is the
Right.
one that turns it from an X to an A, or from an X like this is the end, to an A like Alpha and Omega over America. And
Yes.
so that makes me wonder even more if that's yet another example of how this shows that, perhaps we're in that time where these dragons are warring, and and this all also relates to the Hebrew calendar as well, that we're entering into a time that's going to be hopefully a golden age for a short time at least, where we have some positive turn in the culture and a lot of these institutions being brought out of this corruption into a better place, where we have entertainment, government, the church, all having good leadership or good people in charge rather than these evil, corrupt people. I really hope that's
what
the
I
case.
pray. Absolutely.
Yeah, I hope so too, man. And at any rate, I think that's actually absolutely amazing. That sounds really interesting because it sounds like they're almost like they're trying to explain everything that's being said, almost kind of like if people were asking questions, kind of like logical questions of how did this all happen? It started out that he was
Right.
the only one, and then of course it mentions a family structure, the family
Yeah.
structure, which of course makes perfect sense, because what would the devil want to do? He would want to hide the truth. And of course, they
Right.
tell us it's all men. The Holy Spirit's a guy, Father's a guy,
Yes.
Jesus is a guy. In a sense, it makes more sense that it would be a family, obviously. I mean, it ain't right. And of
Absolutely.
course, yeah, and then you got the Catholic Church where you have the Virgin Mary. It seems to be sort of, and that's another thing, by the way, the Virgin Mary thing. That started around the time of Pope Sixtus III as well, and where they essentially went from saying that how do they say it? The Mother of God. You know how they say the word Mother of God in Catholic Church? They used to say they didn't used to say that before then. He's the one who brought that to pass. According to this research I've seen, he's the one who brought about the concept that Virgin Mary was the mother of God, when in reality, Virgin Mary was the mother of Jesus. And he changed it. He was the one who changed that. He also made some sort of, not temple, but some sort of building to commemorate towards the Virgin Mary. So that was the time when that happened, was at Pope Sixtus III. That's when that all started. So that's, in a sense, kind of replacing the true understanding of the Holy Spirit being the feminine.
Exactly.
Right. So it's just it kind of lines up really interesting to all the stuff we were already talking about. But
Right.
when I talk about the Holy Spirit, I say also that, like, the Holy Spirit is the soul or spirit of God, and God is a male overall. So I mean, I try to, because some people, they get all weird about this topic, right? And
Oh no, brother.
so I say that, in a sense, it's more like a designation, kind of like the family structure or mind, body, spirit, because
Right.
we're made in the image of God, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes,
people get
male and female created they them. Like, and if there's no feminine aspect
created
of
they
the
them. Oh,
Godhead,
see, look, God is into gender. He's into all this stuff. They them, right?
right.
It's just I'm just joking, man.
Yeah. But I mean, again, if there's no feminine aspect of the Godhead, where do women come from? And then
But if you
going
look
back
at
to Genesis, with the creation of man, male and female. I mean, yeah.
well,
So
Jerome said that women are the root of all evil. That's actually a quote from him.
yeah,
So
I've heard that. Yeah.
so they almost look at, like, the woman like she's a snake or something. In reality, this perverted doctrine kind of leads to this idea that women are just evil, instead of it being
Right.
women created in the image of God, right?
Right. Yeah, and then they have this whole patriarchal Catholic system. They try to make women subservient and to lesser than men. That when women are equal in the Godhead, we see the Holy Spirit as part of the Trinity being three in one. Um, but I don't know if you know, but my last two books that I just published are on the Holy Spirit, the wisdom being the feminine aspect of the Godhead, and it's I literally found so much information that I had to publish two books in excess of 400 pages. And I was going to
Dude.
just do one book, but
Where do you
got to
find the
be
time to
so
write these
much.
books, man? Where do you find the time to write books? I haven't wrote any books. I'm like so busy doing
Well,
everything
you're
else.
raising a lot of kids, you know.
Yeah.
I'm blessed. My children are, you know, raising my grandkids, and I get to spend time
Oh, okay.
with them. But my full work is just writing books. We have a publishing company,
I was
Sacred
thinking
Word
the same as
Publishing.
you. Like, wait until you're older when you have the time, and then yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'm
I have
already.
been publishing books since I was 22, so
Oh
it's
wow,
something
man.
that's been part of my life for
I
all
want
this
to
time.
do it too. I want to actually put out a few books, and
You should, brother. You have been led to a lot of really beautiful discernment that not a lot of other people share. So, yeah, you definitely should.
yeah, it's a lot of interesting stuff that I think a lot of people will be surprised. And you know, honestly, a lot of these topics that you and I can easily talk about when like the guy I employed to be my researcher, he told his grandfather about this whole concept of the millennial kingdom. And I know you don't believe it, but it kind of blows people's minds when you talk about the afterlife. Like if you talk about the hell topic and tell them how it's not as simple as the church usually tells you about heaven and hell. There's multiple locations and all this stuff, and all these topics are the feminine aspect of the Holy Spirit, or just there's so many different topics that just blow people's minds. They just can't. It literally
Right.
shakes their faith. Even like they just like, well, you know, it's almost like their faith is founded on the truth and error because they believed all these things,
Exactly.
right, their entire life, and
Right.
it just really messes with their minds. So yeah, it's kind of funny, man, trying to get into
Yeah,
this stuff.
it's difficult for people to overcome their indoctrination and to open themselves to new possibility. And because of that, most people, you know, the bars and the prison are in their minds, and they'll never step outside of that box, you know.
So you're American Indian, right?
Yeah, I'm Apache.
Okay, Apache. Like I did a video, and I'm sure you know a lot about this because you're Indian, but like I did a video about like how the different tribes came from ancient places like ancient Egypt, Babylon, Israel. Like you can look at their languages and see even some of
Right.
their uh, you know festivals, dances, and stuff actually relate to different cultures in the East, I guess you would say. I don't what it do, and honestly, I don't remember all the stuff because I did the video like over a year and a half ago. But um, I just found it really fascinating. You know, even like the tribe that's near the Grand Canyon, they're from ancient Egyptian descent, and there's like some ancient Egyptian treasure even in the Grand Canyon. There's even a legend about them trapping some giants in there and killing them all and stuff. There's
Yeah,
a lot of really
Floodlock
cool
Cave.
stories with that. Yeah, man. I don't know about Apache. I don't know where they came from or anything, but
New Mexico. Yeah.
okay. I'm just curious if so. Did they originate? You think from the Mexico area, or do you think they actually came originally from another area or something?
Oh no, I do believe they came from some other area, and I think
Okay,
that a lot of the native peoples are, you know, part of the lost tribes. Um,
could be,
just want to
man. I don't know,
comment
man.
on uh, something that Eugene had said in the chat room. He said the millennial kingdom is still to come. The prophecies still have to be fulfilled, including the two witnesses. And you know, even though I've studied the 5,500 year prophecy, I do believe, according to the end time apocalypses, which we put out this book called The Great Commission that has all these end time narratives that most people haven't heard about. But I do believe that, without a doubt, according to Scripture, the Antichrist is revealed first. The beast kingdom is set up, and then the Messiah returns
Right,
at
right,
the
right,
end, and that
right.
there will be a new heaven and a new earth before the millennial reign. And so that's what I'm looking forward as far as where we are now. And so that's my only disagreement, but you know, with the millennial age. But I do think that there's a lot to reconsider with regard to the 5,500 year prophecy and all of that. And there's a lot to that we're not being told, that we don't understand, and that's why people need to study and research. But
Well,
uh,
the one thing I would say about this is that the reason why it's so and I understand your objection to it. I understand. I haven't really looked into the whole new heaven and earth and how that relates to the millennial kingdom, but the fact is, a lot of people, it shakes their mind, because it would mean that a lot of history we've been told has been sort of distorted or changed, and not all of it, but quite a bit. I mean, honestly, another thing is, a lot of people, when they think of the millennial kingdom, they think of some sort of perfect kingdom where there's no evil anywhere. When my theory is, because the first thing that came to my mind was like, what about the Muslims, right? But then when I realized the Muslims are outside of the millennial kingdom and they were trying to attack it, so it made me realize that even though, and I'm not saying I'm necessarily correct, but this is what I believe, is that the devil was in the bottomless pit. It doesn't mean all the other demons were. They could have very well been outside the millennial kingdom trying to attack it. And Islam was a perfect way to do that, make a religion that literally was all about killing. And it makes sense that, and of course, then since they lost their leader, who had all the wisdom of being in the third heaven at one point, because he was the one who had all the secrets, if he was in the bottomless pit, they wouldn't be as smart enough to really take on everything. So that once he got out of the bottomless pit, he had sort of a master plan on how to sort of corrupt the entire world and take it the direction he wanted. And of course, if it is true that we are in the time afterwards, it would make sense the devil went forth to deceive the nations. It would mean that he would try to deceive you in any way, shape, or form, history, whatever. So he would be purposely trying to deceive you in every way, shape, and form. And so, we automatically assume we know our history, we know everything about the past. But what if a lot of that stuff has been misconstrued or changed? Like, for instance, I saw something the other day about Marco Polo. So a lot of people believe Genghis Khan is a Chinese guy, right? They have drawings of Genghis Khan as being a Chinese guy. But there's this video that came out that Marco Polo's own writings described him as not being Chinese, but actually, and there's a number of pictures from these ancient books showing him as a white guy. So, there's so many weird things like that. If you start looking into, that's why I was talking about older historical books and more ancient books, is because what ends up happening is, over time, they start trying to change the story to what they want it to be. And like, they're even talking about the Boxer Rebellion might have been the first real world war before World War I, because there's a lot of our history that we've been told certain things, and we look at Wikipedia for answers, when if you just even go back 40 years and look at the Encyclopedia Britannica, it says something different. And just imagine, it's been 1,000 years, thousands of years. Who knows what how much has been changed, right? You have to look at these older books. That's why I think it's really interesting that you look at all these older books. It makes a lot more sense to look at them than to study theology from some modern day, Joel Osteen or whatever, who doesn't know anything, right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. And even in China, the oldest people that were found there, they were white skinned and had red hair.
That's what allegedly Genghis Khan was, is white skin with red hair.
Yeah.
So, but they always paint him as a Chinese guy now. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And again, that's why there's so much coming to light with all these ancient cities and structures being found all over the world, that there's a lot to reconsider with regard to history and all of that. So yeah, a lot to study. Oh, and the only other thing with regard to the millennial kingdom is that the scriptures say that Christ will be here with us during that time, and that he would be teaching us. We would be in the presence of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and that all the nations would be forced to come and to pray and to worship the Elohim. Otherwise, they would not even receive rain. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, we were talking about that. I was talking about that yesterday with Paul Stobbs from Unexpected Cosmology. If you go check out that live stream from yesterday, we were talking about that. And if you pull up a map of all the deserts, you see that Australia has deserts. You see where a lot of the Arab countries had deserts, and they were the ones attacking the millennial kingdom, if it was the millennial kingdom. And of course, another thing he pointed out something really interesting I didn't even think about. What if it would, because you've heard about this old world technology, you've heard about these buildings allegedly would be able to draw in energy or ether or something because of the way their symmetry. What if Jesus was the light, that actually these buildings were encapsulating the energy from him, and that was how they were actually resonating with all this energy? I don't know if it's true. I don't know if that's what happened. Who knows? I mean, like I said, we had the Vatican Library created in 1475 AD. why are all these books locked up in a library? And then, of course, a lot of it burned down in like the 1600s, I think. So there's only like a quarter of the books even left. And what's all in there? They won't even let us read it. Who knows? Maybe it says something completely different in it than what they've told us, right? We don't know what happened during the Middle Ages. They tell us it's the Dark Ages. Everyone was ignorant, couldn't write, didn't know anything. Yet they build these magnificent buildings we can't even build today. Does that even make any sense? It makes no sense, right? So I don't know I don't know. It's like that's the mystery behind it. And of course, you could just say this is a cop out because, like, you can't prove it really. But the more I look into it, the more I start to believe it. I'm not saying I'm right, but it's been 3 years and I'm believing it more and more every day. But it's like, again, I've had pretty much every interpretation you can on Revelation. I've literally had 6 different stances over time, and this is the one I've come to after so much soul searching. But again, I'm not going to say I'm 100% right because who knows, man, right? It's a lot of complex stuff. So.
Not any of us knows everything. That's why we have discussions and we share with each other and one another, is so that we can, come to discernment and truth on different topics. And so, I respect you as a great researcher. Noel, he's one of my best friends with regard to, study and research, and we publish most of his books. And so,
he's a really smart guy. I had him on. He's a smart guy, dude.
Oh, yeah, he totally is. Yeah, and he's very well read, and he's a prolific writer. I got great respect for Noel. But anyways, brother, we got just like 3 minutes remaining, so I want to give you a chance to give out all of your websites and anything, your social media contact, anything you'd like to share, and then final comment.
Sure, man. Just check me out on Godrules on YouTube. I'm also on Twitter, but I'm not that big over there. I got like maybe 3,000 followers so far. I actually have 2 accounts, but one of them was like not working too well, so I was trying to restart a new one. And then I'm also on Rumble, but I mean, main channels are Godrules and Sail Daddy 1 on YouTube. That's where and I also have a website called grvideos.com. If you're wanting to look at all my old videos, I have about 1,000 videos over there. I'm even pulling up some of my even other old videos. So I'm trying to get about 2,000 videos over there because I ended up having to delete so many over on YouTube due to.
They're deleting ours every day.
Oh, they're deleting.
I'm still in the process of trying to back them all up.
So they're deleting your videos?
Yeah, they're deleting our videos.
This is really interesting. So what I did is I figured out their pattern of how to beat their shadow banning. And it ends up being deleting videos. But what it is like they'll shadow ban a video, and if you delete it, so if you don't delete it, it actually affects your channel and it makes your channel weaker. But if you delete all the shadow banned videos, then you're able to be seen by more people. But then there's still people there that can rate more videos. It's kind of a messed up thing. But if you got too many videos rated, then what ends up happening is you start losing views. I didn't know maybe they even have a delete function in the weird glitch where it like deletes your views, deletes your thumbs up, like lose subscribers.
That's part of it.
Yeah,
it's like I find that they're actually listening to our videos because they're deleting stuff like, the fall of the angels, the rebellion of the watchers, and then they're saying that it's because of medical misinformation.
Really?
It had nothing to do with any of that. But
you didn't even talk about the vaccine or anything, right?
No. Yeah, and we're very careful.
I've seen some weird stuff myself where I said something and I would show a Google search and then the next day it was gone, or the article's gone. It's like really weird. So maybe that's what you're talking about.
Never know. I mean, there's such high levels of censorship. It's just unfortunate, but we do what we can with the platform and the outreach that we have, and try to share truth where we can. But final comment, brother. We got 1 minute remaining.
Well, hopefully this is true about the solar eclipses. Hopefully it really means there's going to be a big change for the better next year, and maybe some of the censorship will be finally gone soon here. Maybe it'll take a little while for it to all kick in or something, but hopefully it happens, right? So I'm hoping.
Yes, we pray for better days and for good times as far as an environment that will nourish children and help them to grow in peace and beauty, and to share positive energy. And that's what we're praying for. So,
amen, man. Agree with you 100%.
All right, brother. Hey, it was great catching up. We'll do it again sometime soon, and I will definitely be sending you some information, especially on the Thracian stuff and the new heavens and new earth and all that. So,
All right, cool, man. Thanks.
all right,
You
be
guys have a good
blessed,
day.
and we'll do it again soon.
All right.
Shalom.
Bye.
Good night, all. Be blessed.
Thank you everybody for joining us for this video and this broadcast. We appreciate all of you and thank you for your patronage. Please do like and subscribe and share with your friends. God bless all of you in your seeking.